Frostball has been found out here. Just get caught by the mower, and actually this could be a really good early kill coming out
there we
for
go,
Orange
my
Logo
friend.
Straight into the downstate. Don't know if they're going to be able to finish him off. Yes, they do. Get the stomp. So Orange Logo, you said that they're good at getting these kills. You said they're good at fighting, proving it entering this map.
The fact that they've got the 4-cap coming out for themselves because they got stillness with the 2-cap, which doubles their point score coming in. And now Posey going to drop as well on this side of the map. This is the time where rank 55 is just going to snowball it in their favor.
What happened? Car Crash were winning. They were doing so well, and off that, the back of that one mistake really seems to have knocked their mentality. It doesn't feel like I'm watching the same team as I was. If they don't get the kill blow on this boss, they lose the game. They're going to lose the series if they don't get it.
No,
it goes.
What's going to happen? They're going to kick themselves for this, and they'll get both bosses.
Rank 55 in the last 10 seconds of the game. Get the second boss. Fantastic news. However, they are still 140 points down right now, and they're only even in caps. And this fight for mid control is going to be so crucial in the grand scheme of this game. Badaka is going to be the focus target right now for TCG, and they are going to be able to knock him into downstate immediately. Phrase.
He needs to be careful here. He's got his heel up and he brings it out, but he's not that stupid. And actually, Viper goes full ham onto Karzes and pushes him into the boss. He takes him down. Wow.
Viper with the
funny with the Smiley with the plays as well as Viper there, I think.
Dayskin trying to finish this one off. Dank looking for the cleave as well. Anka just needs to get a little bit more off, and they are going to be able to get the rest. But Sling is going to be denied in the end, and it looks like he might just be cleaved out and finished off. So really nicely played by Morgan.
We're looking at Zuik to try and pick up the cheeky Smiley still.
He's looking for
Oh my God! He gets the beautiful steal with a double boss kill on the sides, and that's good work. You could see that coming from a mile away.
Tech speed so incredibly low.
Mower
he has to survive this one, but he's in Mower. Gets through the portal over towards mid and will be able to survive this one. Lourdes Jura got mowed as well, and he jumps back into the fight over at the mine. Rank 55 with a 70-point lead and a single cap advantage.
But the thing is, Levin is so low now. We need to see the man cow push to make sure he's going to be up to high HP as well. But Levin's just going full man mode onto the Lord. He doesn't care how much HP he's got, and I don't think TCG are going to be able to defend this as the HP just drops completely of the Blue Lord. He gets taken out, and that is rank 55 Dragons 2-0.
Looks like they might actually try to go for that res. Edmonton going to join in though, try to put some damage down. Java doesn't look like he's going to make it up this time around, but he does actually get the search and rescue, so he is going to be okay. And it's actually Nero who's going to be going down and probably dying out. So great move there from PZ, turning that one back around.
Zeus is coming in. If he's able to get it here, throws down the Thunderclap. Does he get it? He picks up the kill. Still holding on to a 2-cap now as they are able to get the keep back. And they might be able to get back into this game now because things could potentially go back in their favor here. They're all going for it. Even without the 500, but PZ's on the other side as well. They've got 4 members, but they still need a kill. They're not going to win if they don't get a kill, and it's going to get potentially
Zeus is down. They need the stomp right now. They absolutely need it.
No!
There's the stomp.
Oh my gosh!
It's going to be a race, boys.
Who's got it? Take a look at the Blue Lord. Blue Lord's 50%. Red Lord's only about 50% now. It's going to be Team PZ coming out with game number 3.
Devil is getting still even lower right now as they try to just train him down, and if they can pick up a kill here, that'll be big deal for them in the future, as Tau is actually just taken down as well across the map. So if they can get both of these guys, as it looks like they were almost just able to do, I mean, they're going to have full control across the map yet again.
Look at this skirmish as Spooky tries to move from a node to another node.
Ooh.
Astral just doesn't let it happen. They're not letting them get anywhere with their game here.
This is definitely, I mean, when I was talking about a 2-1 with Adrian potentially upsetting, this is definitely the map where I assumed Final Form would win, but I don't think anybody anticipated them to be winning at like this rate.
Frostball has been found out.
Hello everyone, and welcome to On Point, the PvP Pro League show with myself and Heurix from the NA side of things. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm excited to talk to some awesome people this evening who have managed to come and join us, of course. We've got Sam from Car Crash. I was going to say Made and Meta there, actually. And then we've got Hans as well, Supcutie from Final Form. We'll be speaking to them in a moment. It won't be too long. We're just going to go through the results and obviously what's happened in the last week of Pro League, which has been very interesting indeed. So what we're going to do is going to nip onto the EU results first of all. And you can see there is actually 5 matches there. Obviously, because of week 1, we were unable to play one of those matchups. We actually played it this week. We didn't play the actual both of them because the night would have been going on forever. But we first had, of course, Vermilion versus Orange Logo. And I guess the reason I'm saying it like that is, again, we saw that Orange Logo weren't able to actually get much on the board against Vermilion. And even Vermilion, I don't think they were even on their A game, actually, on the Monday night, in all honesty, and still were able to put quite a comfortable performance up against Orange Logo. Obviously, Frostball going up against his former teammates as well. Like, that's quite a big thing in itself, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it's probably felt good to him, although, I'm sure there isn't too much bad blood there. But, I mean, still, it probably felt good to, walk out of there with confidence saying I made the right move,
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think he said that as well when we spoke to him a couple of weeks ago. He felt that was the right move for him, because the team is still, in this state where they're not able to get much at the moment. They're still in a bit of flux, I suppose, as well. Then we saw Rank 55 going up against Car Crash, of course, going 2-0. I don't feel like the 2-0 really kind of describes the games that we saw, because the second map on Forest
certainly
was
not the Forest game,
close.
yeah.
It was very entertaining in terms of... Yeah, we're going to talk to Sam about that later, so maybe I'll hold off on that one for now. But then we saw, of course, CCG versus Purple Noise. Purple Noise winning a series, actually, in the first week. So they're actually a little bit ahead on the leaderboard in terms of their position last season. So they're already up, which is great for them. And they actually put not a bad performance up against TCG. It feels like they're coming together a bit more as a team at the moment. Obviously, TCG happily winning that series. More Guns Than Roses going up against Super Smash. It seems that Super Smash could be the Purple Noise of this season, as they are yet to get any points on the board. Which is... I am actually very surprised about this. I think we spoke a little bit about it before. With the team members that they do have, I was actually expecting a lot more from these guys this season.
Yeah, they certainly looked a lot better in the Challenger Cup, but I mean, we talk about it a lot, how the Challenger Cup moving up into the Pro League is a very, very big difference.
There is,
so,
indeed.
if it might not translate all the time, and I mean, that's the case. They're kind of looking like, the EU version of Zero Counterplay, and you were saying Purple Noise as well, same situation, so...
So unfortunate. But then, of course, we had 2 teams who had to play again. TCG and Rank 55 Dragons, and I think there was some wonder about whether or not this was going to be a strong win for Rank 55. In the end, it was quite decisive. I mean, they played pretty well. There was maybe some quite big disappointment. This is actually one of the biggest series of the entire season for Pro League, because of that matchup. TCG are the other team that could be in top 2, and this is one of those series they were looking to try and win so they could solidify themselves in that top 2.
I wouldn't say it was decisive by any means.
Not decisive, but...
For a long time, it was really close. I mean, we're talking about... we didn't see a Lord Rush until the last minute of the game, and up until that point, it was pretty close. So they did win 5-12 to 296, which might seem decisive on paper, but the actual context of the game, it wasn't really that far off. I mean, 5 minutes left in the match, and they were tied. You know what I mean? So
I did feel, though, that there was, in terms, when I say decisive, I think there was some movement on Forest, which I was questioning. There was some interest that, it felt like they had a good position, and they fought too far ahead, if that makes sense. And I think I said something about chess. It's really good to think about there's so many moves ahead, but you've also got to think about the here and the now, right? And what's going on. We have current control, and they kind of almost threw it away. I haven't managed to go back and watch that matchup yet recently, but there was a sense of that, almost thinking too far ahead. Continuum split maybe being an issue, but thinking too far ahead to the point where you almost over rotate, if that makes sense, which was kind of interesting in itself. But still, like you said, on paper, it looks decisive, but yeah, it was a lot closer, I think, and maybe in terms of last season, probably a better performance as well, especially from some individuals in that series. So obviously, Rank 55 doing pretty well for themselves, as well as Vermilion as the top 2. Let's go over to NA. And some nice results there, actually. Is there anything surprising up in here? I've got Team PZ versus Easy Peasy, first of all.
Yeah, so that went to a 2-1. That was actually probably the most exciting match of the day. I had assumed it was going to be Final Form versus E-Dream, but as we'll talk to Supcutie later on, that did not wind up happening at all. But PZ versus Easy Peasy was awesome. Went to 2-1. PZ now has squeaked by versus 2 challenger teams, actually. Both teams looking otherwise pretty strong. E-Dream actually falling pretty easily to Final Form, which is kind of interesting because PZ was, as we can remember, the team that wound up going to the season finals, and they squeaked by E-Dream, and Final Form crushed them this week.
Yeah.
So I will say that is kind of interesting as far as going into kind of the later weeks when PZ will actually have some more difficult matchups starting in week 4 when they actually do go up against Final Form.
Right.
But yeah, PZ versus Easy Peasy, awesome matches. Chieftain got a double kill. That was hilarious. Moving on into match 2.
Double kill.
It was Never Lucky versus Jims and Tonic. And Never Lucky, absolutely, as expected, demolished them. Nothing much to say there. Same goes for Astral Authority versus Spooky. Although Spooky has kind of made strides a little bit to... I mean, they're not scrimming as much, but they have kind of posed themselves as a team that's getting better. So it'll be interesting to see if, later on they might be able to squeak out a win. But at this point, they're looking like the Super Smash of the league for NA. And then Final Form and E-Dream, I don't want to talk about this too much because, like I said, we'll have Supcutie on in a couple of moments here. But Final Form, I kind of expected E-Dream to maybe squeak this one out, and I really mean squeak it out. Like, I thought it was going to be extremely close, but Final Form completely shut that down. 2-0 for them, and honestly kind of made it look a little bit easy. So
yeah, I managed to watch that because we got Supcutie obviously paying a little bit more attention to this series, as you say, this week. Like you say, we're going to talk to him in a moment as well, and Sam, but we're just going to quickly have a look at the standings on EU side. So, of course, Vermilion rank 55, joint first at the moment. We've got TCG, more guns on also the same amount of points as Purple Noise, and Orange Logo and Car Crashed. 6th at the moment, joint, but they've only played 1 game each. Obviously, their series is going to be replayed in week 4, so 2 weeks. Sorry, not next Monday, but the Monday after. And then we've got Super Smash, who have indeed lost 2 series. So don't pay too much attention to what's going on in terms of where Orange Logo and Car Crashed are positioned, because obviously they still have a game to play. But they will probably be in a similar situation that they are right now, just because of Purple Noise and the rest of those teams being 1-1. And then we'll go to NA. And if you're wondering who the hell Astral Authority are, that's the Abjured. They have been taken up by Astral Authority. And yeah, that's actually a very, very positive thing for the Guild Wars 2 competitive scene, as they're the first guys to be picked up and sponsored, actually. So that's congrats to those guys. I don't think I've said that publicly yet. But yeah, I mean, the standings for NA, pretty much what you thought, or... I mean, it's still early days. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, at the moment, it's one of those things where it was going to come down to Astral versus Never Lucky in the first week, and that really would kind of set the tone. Obviously, Astral won, so yeah, the rest of it kind of makes sense right now. Final Form, PZ, Astral, Never Lucky are my top picks for those top 4 slots, right now at least, and I think that as the season goes on, we'll see Never Lucky start climbing back up.
That's right. Yeah.
And I think that they'll probably...
that could be one of their only losses, right? Versus Astral.
I'll wait to say what I was about to say until Supcutie comes, and maybe he has something to say there. But
I think I knew
it'll
what
have
you were
to do
say.
with week 3, as we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's exciting, right? Okay, so hopefully as we go on to the 4 cams, everyone's in the right place. This is me grinding my teeth. Yes, everyone is in the right place in this success. I didn't even have to say that, and now I feel bad. Okay, so welcome to Supcutie, of course, from Final Form. We've seen him quite a lot in the past. Not saying that that's boring. Sam as well. We have Sam from Car Crash, formerly also from Made in Meta. How are you guys doing? You good tonight?
Good. Yep, doing well, thanks.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay, so there's a lot to talk about, really, but I guess we could talk to Sam first of all, because we haven't actually seen you in the Pro League yet this season. Obviously, there's only been one series played by Car Crash presently anyway at the moment. So what's it like to watch your team from the outside almost and not being able to actually participate in the first place?
Yeah, it's not that good,
Yeah.
for sure, but because if you watch these games, like you cheer for your team and stuff, but you can't really do something to help them and you can't really play for your own, and yeah, it doesn't feel that great, yeah. But I trust my teammates and they are doing very well for the first game we did.
Yeah, versus, they had a pretty good series. I mean, there were some issues. I think rezzing was one of the biggest issues that we saw coming out from Car Crash. I think actually Rank 55 made a similar mistake in Forest in terms of just overcommitting to something and losing out, unfortunately. But, sometimes that's the way it is. And then obviously losing the 2 bosses on Forest, which is just, one of those moments where you just want to, I guess, grab the keyboard and shove it into the monitor. Just because there's not much you could do. We were talking about that earlier, but it was just unfortunate as well. But I feel like, me and Joe were talking about on stream as well, is that you guys should be fairly happy with that performance, right? To a degree.
Yeah, at first, when we played that match, we were really disappointed because we lost just because of these 2 bosses. Even if we got one, we would have had won that game, and that would have been so huge because if we go 2-1 or 1-2 against 55 HP, we could get so much out of it. But after the first disappointment, we were really proud of ourselves because you will not get more out of this against 55 HP. You will never get like 500 to 200 them or something. It will always be close games, and we managed to do a really, really good match in the second game. I mean, most of the time, little things decide these games, and for example, even the first game was not that bad, but sometimes we got a res bug when we tried to res the search and rescue didn't port the body to us, which kind of gave them a snowball situation. And in the first game we overcommitted to res too, and we didn't rotate that well.
Unfortunate. But of course we have Supcutie with us as well. How was your like I said, I kind of watched your games quite obviously because I didn't cast them, but Heurix did. I mean, you can obviously speak a little bit more. But your performance on both maps actually, and I think Storm and Heurix both said it at different points in time, and about you yourself being very important, obviously playing Mesmer in terms of leading that team, rotating very well, using portals as well, and how key your role is, not just as a Mesmer, but just you as a person, literally. I mean, how was those games for you?
So I mean, I think playing Mesmer, you kind of fall into a role where you're dictating the pace of the games a lot. I'm thinking of like macro strategy of like, okay, how are we going to portal? What types of proactive portal plays do we want to make? Things like that. But I mean, the game's been pretty smooth. We, like I said during my interview, we had just come off of like a full day of scrims the day before. Versus Easy Peasy, Never Lucky, and I think we did Astral Authority as well. I can't quite remember, but
that's nice.
So I think Easy Peasy was pretty boosted up from our scrims, and that might have helped them in their game. But so we were feeling pretty good. We played a strong 2-point game, and basically it was just winning my fights, and then we were winning the team fights.
Good stuff. How was it from your point of view, Heurix?
I think the only hiccup that they ever had was just on Forest. Kind of at the beginning, eDream got a little bit of an advantage early, but I mean, it was only a couple of minutes before we saw Final Form take that back. But I mean, that was one of those things where I kind of expected. I mean, like I'll say it again. I kind of expected eDream to literally like barely edge that one out, like 2-1. I thought that maybe they'd be able to take the latter 2 maps. I definitely thought Final Form would just completely crush them on the first one, as eDream has, I mean, almost no experience on that map, and I don't think that they have the rotational knowledge that Final Form has. I at all, so that certainly will hurt them a lot on that first map as well in Temple. But I mean, man, was I wrong about the second map, man? Completely wrong. Yeah, they edged out both side nodes, I think, early, if I'm not mistaken, and then it was only about a minute and a half later, Final Form took both side nodes back, flipped it, and then just held control for like pretty much the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
I think there was a situation where we had like a team fight on a side node, and then they let me handle the other nodes, and so
Yeah.
1v1 the Mesmer. The Ranger tries to come into res, I mow the Ranger, kill the Mesmer, then went and killed the Ranger, and like turned their caps into our caps.
That's right. You were losing
Yeah.
by 100 points, actually. And you were getting, I think you were, I'm not sure if you've been 2 caps or whatever, but they had like a 100-point lead, and you flipped the map. Like 3 caps in your favour, and that's pretty much what carried you almost right to the end of the game. It was kind of... It was very much on the rotations and the kills, and it was like Heurix says, you know, the experience maybe just even as a team or maybe on those maps in the competitive scene as well is something which is very, very beneficial, especially like in the pro league when you're going up against teams and there's pressure. You know, you've got money. It's not scrims, you know, because obviously scrims are very important, but at the end of the day, you're not winning, you're not losing any money, you're not winning or losing a position. It's just a scrim, so there's not that pressure there, and it's, you know, under that pressure, I think you've got a little bit of an edge against a lot of teams, actually.
The funny thing was, too, is that while Supcutie did, like, I mean, he basically absolutely murdered Bear at mid, and then followed up on a 1v1 onto Trig as well, and that one was even extremely quick, if I'm not mistaken, over on mine, I think it was, and just, like, completely just obliterated him there. And then the good thing was that while he was doing that, since he was having those 2 guys over at mid and then again over at mine, his team was able to just, like, with Zeromus and Bob actually putting out the pressure, I mean, they handled Hazard, they killed Bear again, and then I think you guys rotated over to mid, and that was with a 3 cap. At that point, like, it was game. I mean, completely. So, yeah, Final Form, honestly, like, you guys need a scrim day before all the time, because that was some good stuff for sure.
It was very good play.
Yeah,
so
we've got another Sunday lined up.
There you go. So we have actually got 2 Mesmers on this stream, which wasn't intentional actually. It's kind of the way it went, which was kind of lucky. So, but not never lucky. We've got obviously you guys playing on different regions as well, so it might be quite nice to just talk about, you know, how you feel even about the potential for Mesmer in the future, in terms of we have a big, massive quarterly update coming up. And speculation is a thing, obviously, because you're going to be speculating this kind of stuff, because it's bang, straight in the middle of the season. A couple of weeks later, you're back in Pro League, you're playing again. And maybe what you think could happen to the Mesmer, if it's going to be in a similar situation to what it is right now, because obviously, you know, in a quarterly update, big changes are going to come. It's inevitable. There's been big, massive changes before. Obviously, we've had changes in rules in terms of the Pro League. You can't stack classes anymore as well. What do you think? It's a difficult question I'm trying to come up with right now, because I've got a question, but it's difficult to think, you know, what do you maybe expect from the actual quarterly update, and how do you think, how easy is it going to be for your team specifically to adjust to this new meta that we'll inevitably see in the second half of Season 2?
I think, like, what I really want to see is, for the Mesmer, is actually that Continuum Split doesn't affect the Elite skill anymore. Because that would push Mesmer in a direction that you could use the Continuum Split for other things, like surviving or pressuring or something like that, instead of just doing the Continuum Split and more. And I would actually really like to see that for my team, for the next meta, what it will be like. I think it doesn't matter what comes, it doesn't matter which class will be meta. With 6 players that we have currently, we almost have every class in our team that we can actually go for. The only problem would be, like, if Mesmer would be too strong, that I actually need to compete with the top Mesmers in EU at the moment again. And yeah, but otherwise I'm pretty confident about the next patch, actually, because we have the advantage that we can switch classes as we want.
True. Okay, Supcutie, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, like, gauging current Mesmer strength, I think it's tier 1 for sure. I would argue that it's the hardest carry in the game right now. I mean, if you're playing solo queue, play Mesmer. Like, you can just go up pips, dude. And I'd say Revenant is a close second. But in terms of the update, I think, you know, you might see adjustments to either MOA, Split, Chrono Phantasma. Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, there's, you know, tons of changes they can make, but I feel like, you know, each patch there's always going to be something on top, and I don't know if I think that you can deal with Mesmer right now. I think that it's maybe not as egregious as some other things have been in the past, but I definitely think it's super strong. I think our team specifically, we have two Mesmers, two main Mesmers on our team, and so I think, you know, if Mesmer has any impact going forward, then we'll be in a good spot regardless of whatever it is.
I mean, I think the more egregious things would be kind of more tuned. I mean, less from a competitive perspective and more towards like a queuing perspective would be like the Power Rev and you know the Condi Reaper. I think those are the two things that maybe people are kind of more worried about from a balance perspective. But yeah, I would completely agree. Like Mesmer, if it goes relatively unchanged, I think we'll still be like, we're talking like tier 0, like S tier. You know what I mean? Like as for competitive, at least, it's just so strong. So I'm curious to find out. You know, you guys have like 3 weeks, I think it is, before you guys have to go back into and it'll be week 5, 6, and 7. So you guys actually final form, I think it is. You guys have to play PZ and Never Lucky on the current patch. Do you guys feel more confident about doing that on this patch, or do you think you would want to? Would you prefer it on the next one?
I think that people view, you know, Necro, Rev, NG as very strong, and even Ranger 2 in some aspects. And I think that the patch might tone those down. I think that Mesmer might also be toned down. I don't know, you know, what the relative toning will be. I think that like I feel comfortable on this patch that we can win. And I think that we're talented enough to adapt to whatever comes, basically. But I mean, really, if we win our next 2 games, then that's almost secures our spot as second.
No, it 100% secures it. You guys are already 2-0. You guys will beat the 2 teams that are probably the only 2 teams that could potentially even compete for it at this point. And with Never Lucky already having lost to Astral, PZ, I have to assume we'll lose to Astral. Although you never know. I mean, the next patch could change everything, you know, and same goes for you guys as well. I mean, you guys played them in the first week back, and every time there's a meta shift or a paradigm shift of some kind, that's when Astra will be probably the most susceptible to a loss, I guess, because they won't, you know, they won't exactly know, and we saw that actually in the finals as well. So I don't know, it could be interesting for you guys. You could actually come through as potentially the winningest team of season 2. You never know. It's kind of set up interestingly for you guys.
Yeah, no, we're going hard right now because we understand that like it can be decided in the next 2 weeks. We're not even really thinking about the next patch because I mean, if we can, you know, if we can do well right now, then we can just adapt later. So.
That's true. What I'm kind of worried about is when the next patch is coming, that we don't have that much time to figure out what is really overpowered and what's not. And that could be a problem because teams who see the stuff that is getting overpowered first will get a little advantage. And when there is really a class that is totally broken and they are not scrimming any team with that class, it could actually give them, win potential against teams they're not supposed to win.
I'm kind of curious to see. I mean, right now we came from that meta where it was like the double bunker Mesmer. We saw a lot of Revenants as well, and we kind of, you know, defensive, very defensive. And we came into this meta and everybody was assuming like, oh, it'll be like high lethality, that kind of stuff. And while it has been certainly more lethal than the last meta, I'm curious because the things that we've seen that have been, I guess, slightly overtuned have been, again, the the Condition Reaper because it's been so easy to stay alive on it, as well as, I guess, the Engineer. Just for this point, I'll use these two. The Engineer have been passively so easy to kind of be defensive. Yeah. And I'm curious if those two things, since those two things have, using the word egregious again, if they've been so egregious over the past season, if they change that and tone that down, will we then see a more lethal meta where we might see things like more Zerkers and more, I guess, emphasis on rotational play rather than, you know, some of these like weird kind of, you know, 3v3, 4v4 team fights that we do see a lot with the Mesmers peeling out, and how you guys will potentially react to that. Or I guess adapt to that, rather.
Yeah, I mean, I think if things get toned down, as you know, we've been potentially suspecting, Mesmer could be in a very good spot.
It's true.
Yes, I think when they really tone down stuff, they need to tone down everything. Like when you just nerf Revenant, NG, Necro, for example, then Ellie could be really overpowered because you can hold some situations 2v or 3v1 or something.
That's true. Yeah, and we want to try to avoid the bunker stuff. Yeah.
So you basically need to tone down everything. You need to tone down this power creep at all, because at the moment it's like that every class is overpowered in some kind of situation, and without HOT and without some different things you can't really live with. For example, the Engineer can just sustain so long because of the hammer, and yeah, the Revenant is so good because he has this crazy one-shot potential with Precision Strike, and the Step 5 can still hold a very long because of the posting shadow, has mobility. And when I see Necro, I mean, of course he's strong, but he has just a position that he just can be in fights, and he's not that fast, and he has this disadvantages for his advances. And when you nerf, you really need to see what you want to nerf from this class.
I mean, one thing to think about is the fact that we are also forgetting about two classes that we barely see. And the changes that could come in for those guys, you know, a quarterly update should be a massive balance patch which brings things into line, which is obviously something which everyone now is expecting the Warrior and the Thief to suddenly be given some kind of increase in terms of, you know, how useful they can be and put into a competitive part of the game now. I mean, whether or not that's going to happen or not, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But there is also that idea that you might have to try these classes and put them into your compositions to at least test them out and see if they're going to be useful, if there's something that could be potentially, like you say, overpowered, like back in the day, you know, when we had like Shalper Warrior and different things like that, obviously SD Thief, whatever, or Dagger Pistol, whatever you want to call, whichever, you know, Thief build there is. But there is that idea of that, which I find very interesting, and that's why I can't wait for the first day of Pro League, of like the new, you know, the second half of the season. Because not only, you know, me and Heurix going to have a little bit of a fun task. Obviously, we can find out different things, but we're not playing in the Pro League. It's just going to be surprising to see what comes up, because I think you're right, you know, teams adapting to the new meta is going to be so key in that second half of the season, especially because a lot of the matchups that are coming up for you, Supcutie, I think, like, you've got those really important games coming up before that happens. And actually Car Crash does as well, some games which could really solidify their position in kind of that 4th, 5th maybe position, and maybe even higher to a degree. So there is a lot going on, and you know, there's the idea this happening right in the middle of the season. I mean, it's worth asking. What do you reckon? What do you feel about it? What do you reckon about it? Do you like it? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it should be something that shouldn't happen? I mean, it might be a little bit of a cheeky question for me to ask while on this channel, but I kind of want to ask the question.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The thing is that when you don't have the main player on it, when, for example, Thief will get super overpowered, and you don't have a main thief in your team, then you will not figure it out, because when you set someone on this position, he will not be as good as, for example, a main thief like Syndra now. You will just see it when you play against that teams, and that could actually be a problem, because every team will try to sneak and try to secret their build so that they can get an advantage off of that in the first week of Pro League.
It's going to be so exciting, I think.
Yeah,
we just saw Syndra randomly playing Thief again. That would actually be very enjoyable to watch.
That would be probably, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think at this stage, that would probably be the only saving grace for Orange Logo at this point, because I mean, with Syndra not on his main, and with Rom not playing his main either, well, I mean,
even Tage to a degree, you could say.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. So like, you got 3 really stellar players not playing what they've become kind of infamous on, and it's definitely hurting them as a team. And I think that if you have the ability to have Syndra back on Thief, and I mean, if you do actually have those couple of classes that are a little bit too defensive, too easy to sustain, especially with an Elementalist to kind of support them, if they get toned down so that they're a little bit easier to take down, that maybe don't have some of those that same defensive utility, at least to that same degree, then yeah, you could easily see stuff like Thief. And I mean, there are things out there that already deal with the Elementalist because it has such a low health pool that you really can still kind of burst it down, given the fact that you can run something that can actually burst it down. And at the moment, that's just not really kind of what's allowed to happen, because these other things like Engineer and Condition Reaper and stuff just are too good against those things. So it's like a try to counterplay, and they'll just counterplay by bringing in stuff that's already meta. So it's like, it's really kind of rough. So that's why you see a lot of the teams doing the same kind of thing. So
yeah, I mean, the thing is that Thief isn't really bad at the moment. It's just that he needs to compete with the current meta classes, and he doesn't have a chance because like Engineer and Revenants are much better, and even when like they get nerfs or something, if some classes can do the job better than Thief, then he would still be viable. Like Revenant at the moment, you can still fill the role as with a Revenant and with a Thief too, but that's not really good. Like yeah, how can I say that?
Well, a Thief jumps into a fight when he wants to +1 up against an Engineer, for example. He can still die, right? Pretty easily, just through passively using,
literally.
his world.
I mean, if he doesn't have the shadow step up, and he just accidentally walks onto a Six Shoes, yeah, he's done, like completely done.
Yeah, but like I said, that's because of the state of the current meta. Like Six Shoes, for example, is totally retarded. I think everyone can agree with that. And even though the Mesmer too, because everything is passive, he can't even dodge it or can't even play it smart against him. He will just, even the Mesmer is blocking and stuff, he will still get conditions on him and need to disengage at some point.
I mean, I just want to, because we do have like 10 minutes or so, and we have chat going for it, but if you have any questions in chat, then feel free to ask them, but try and say at Jebro Unity or at Heurix or at whoever, just to make it a little bit more visible in the chat. That would be great, because it'd be nice to get some of your questions as well. I'm just wondering what else we need to ask. We need to talk about.
I have something.
Go. We need to talk about next week's games as well.
Exactly.
But go for it.
That's actually what I kind of wanted to talk about. Is
awesome.
Final Four versus Never Lucky. That's probably your guys', I would say, second/third hardest matchup. I personally believe that Never Lucky is doing better than PZ right now, given the fact that PZ has struggled versus their 2 games that they've won, especially against a team that you guys have already kind of just basically dominated. So how do you feel about going up in week 3 before the patch against Never Lucky, and then following that up with probably the next hardest matchup with NPZ on this patch?
Yeah, no, it'll be a tough matchup for sure. I mean, we're trying really hard. Currently, we're certain teams aren't scrimming us, so we're trying our best to be prepared. Last week when we scrimmed Never Lucky, it was like we won like 7-1 or something, and it was like, wow. But they were playing. They had different. They had like all run on Mesmer, and I 1v3'd them, and it was just like I don't know, I don't know what was going on. And then at the very last game, they swapped to their main comp, and we lost barely on Legacy. But we won't have Legacy this week, and that's our weakest map, I think. Then we scrimmed again, and we just got like trashed. But like Ozzy, was a little inebriated, and it was kind of like a YOLO last minute scrim, and we weren't prepared. And so I think it's really going to be very close, in my opinion. Because we went from like winning to just like getting owned, and then like we're not able to scrim, and they've been scrimming Abjured or Astral. So I don't know. I think it's like, I think there's some pros and cons for both sides.
Quick thoughts on PZ?
Oh, PZ, yeah. So PZ, I think that I am doing a great job on Mesmer versus them. I think that if we prepare for Neverlucky, we should be fairly prepared for PZ. We're focusing on Neverlucky right now, and then we'll gather the intel we need on PZ and just try to like formulate a plan and stuff. But I feel like, as Astral has stated, that all of the top teams right now in NA are trading a little bit back and forth, and I think that things are closer than they've been in a long time. So I think that we can definitely do it.
Awesome stuff. Okay, we're going to talk to Sam about your matchup next week as well, but just a quick couple of questions, because there's actually a couple of good ones. I'll ask. The random hair questions always seem to come up. Would you guys like to see, would you guys like to see Power Mesmer back? Great sword business.
I would definitely like to see it, because
I like that, Heurix. I like that.
it forces good gameplay, because the Shatter Mesmer was really skillful, and he could actually make difference in his team, and it's not like the current Mesmer who's basically passive.
We're getting that theme from you at the moment. Definitely getting that passive theme.
Yeah.
That's fair enough to say. How about you, Supcutie?
I like to like outplay and be very mechanical, and I think that Power Mesmer really can show that off. You can show off a skill difference between players, and so I think that I like Power Mesmer more than the current spec. But I actually think that okay, let me put it this way: I like Power Mesmer more as a spec, as a like way of doing damage and way of playing, but I like the current spec more. I feel that the current spec actually has a pretty high skill cap, and I think I like being able to be bruisey and do the 1v1s, and I think Power Mesmer has traditionally been weak, so maybe that's just like skewing some judgment. Like right now I just feel very strong, and but
it's not been around for a while.
The fun thing about Power Mesmer is that it also does just completely demolish all support Ellies, so that would completely ruin that, and maybe put some interesting team comps out there, because people might be worried about it.
The problem is that Power Mesmer struggles versus Revenant, Dragon Hunter, and sometimes Thief, and Condi's a little bit so you'd be going from now where like Mesmer is just like has good impact and matchups to like you just are like, all right, team, help me all the time.
But the thing about Mesmer is that it's not that it's like the class is actually bad right now. It's just that everything else is just a little bit better, and that given a team scenario, it's just too much, because there's 3 things on the team at the bare minimum that could probably deal with the Mesmer at some point. So
Teamfights Mesmer though, really strong though. You can carry fights so hard, like distortion and dazing as well as like confusion, like can really screw people up. Especially, I mean, I've just witnessed in so many team fights casting at the moment how important distortion is, and how it can be so effective in terms of getting it down, just surviving a fight, and having that.
Share it.
Exactly, the sharing. Exactly, the main reason why it's so strong. That's why it's quite nice, because it does feel fairly supporty, in terms of like the survival aspect of the team and the potential sustain that can come out. It's good that distortion can't. You're not allowed to capture points with it anymore, because imagine that right now, that would not be fun, which is obviously part of the problem before. But
go ahead.
No, I'm kind of finished. You go.
Okay. I was just going to say...
You're way too polite. You should just go.
I was just going to say that, like, the Power Mesmer spec that was available right when Heart of Thorns launched, where you could run, like, precog and run wells, and Alacrity was strong and all this stuff, that was my favorite build ever of all the Mesmer iterations.
Yeah.
And so what I am a little disappointed about is how, because of the bunker meta, the bunker mes meta, you know, precog was nerfed multiple times and Alacrity was nerfed, and sure, some of those needed to be toned down regardless, but now you're left in a situation where, like, if you have to go back to Power Mesmer, it's like in a significantly weakened state that, like, if the bunker Mesmer thing hadn't been a factor, like, it would be in a better place type of thing. So, like, it got nerfed because of bunker Mesmer, and I don't know. So I was a little sad about that, but yeah,
but I think Mesmer is in the best spot for this patch because the thing is he has Portal and more, and that makes him almost viable in every kind of situation because there's two utilities making Mesmer so strong and giving you so much team utility that even when he get nerfed down or even when he gets some slight changes or something, I think he will still be meta.
Earlier I said Warrior and Thief, right? Didn't even think about Guardian.
Yeah.
Didn't even mention Guardian. And poor Sam. I'm like, he played Guardian as his main class for so long. Yeah, and someone said something about that in chat about the potential of, would you like to see potentially, you know, Guardian Dragon Hunter build coming into, you know, the competitive scene?
The thing is, Dragon Hunter is not bad. It's just that he's getting completely wrecked by Ellie and Engineer at the moment because they have so much projectile hate, and that's basically the only reason why Dragon Hunter is not viable. A Dragon Hunter is a potential counter to, like, classes like Thief or Mesmer, everything that runs power, or even Engineer, because you can spike people down. But since Ellie is in the meta, Dragon Hunter can't be, and that's pretty sad. Even when I think Dragon Hunter gets buffed or something, he will still be not meta because of the Ellie.
Yeah, as long as projectile hate exists, there's, I mean, a number of builds that just simultaneously can't. And that's definitely kind of one of the problems, I think, in terms of having some diversity with composition. And also, the other problem with Dragon Hunter is you can't necessarily buff it because in the lower tier play,
still pretty powerful.
Kind of, and like Ruby and stuff like that, and League play, when you get into solo queues, Dragon Hunters are extremely strong because a lot of those players don't necessarily know how to play against it. So if you do buff it, then they'll become more of a problem at that level, and that's why we've seen changes to, I believe, what was it, Test of Faith, I think, actually got changed.
Yeah.
So that's why you see stuff like that. So I think that's definitely one of the problems with Dragon Hunter and why it'll take a while for us to see something like that. I mean, projectile hate being the biggest reason for sure.
It's a good point because you make a very good point about the difference between Pro League play and then the tiers below that. And, like, you know, being a lower tier player or a new PvP player, you jump into PvP and suddenly you can just get wrecked by a Dragon Hunter just because you haven't got some kind of reflect on or some kind of defense and you haven't got that armed, and you just jump into PvP and you're like, no, I don't want to be here because I just got destroyed in one shot, because it's totally doable. It's totally doable.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so that makes that difficult. We're coming close towards the end of the show. This has actually gone so quickly. We've had a lot of good conversation. Just wondering if there's any quick questions, if there's anything you can see in chat that we could just nail down quickly. No, Fantaram donating his hair to my cause would not be a good thing. At Supcutie and Sam, if you were given... Wow, that's a big question. Okay, let's ask this question, because I think it's from Carbine. He says, at Supcutie and Sam, if you were given full control of balance and PvP team, what would you change and why? And we're just going to say one thing each, I think. Why would you have any changes to matchmaking or leagues? If so, why? Let's just go with the balance thing. Like, if you could see some kind of build or some kind of around a class, potentially Mesmer maybe, since you're both Mesmer players, what would you be interested to seeing? Some aspect of your class or a class that you would love to see coming into the game, maybe?
Yeah, like
I would say a specific build, yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see that Continuum Split doesn't affect the elite skill anymore. That would be...
You really like, come on, Sam. There's got to be something else.
I agree, man. I think that's actually like a great
it's
point.
a good
I really think that's
point,
good.
yeah.
And maybe a slight
Guardian, something
Portal
about Guardian.
change, because Portal is still like a utility that makes Mesmer viable all the time, which is kind of unfair, I think, because other classes have so much to offer too, and Mesmer is just always viable because of Portal and more.
I think that Mesmer, I think I would actually enjoy finally being able to play without Portal. That's my perspective.
Right. Because you kind of take Blink and Portal, and that's the way always. Well, other than the tanky meta.
I think my general feel of the game is I like when it's more damage oriented and less tanky oriented. I like when there's less stealth, just because stealth in this game has a lot less counterplay compared to other games. I think those are the two big
Shadow Refuge Ellie situations of the past.
Yeah, like if I could make one change, like if stealth became meta, my change would be that like there's more counterplay. Like you get revealed if you get hit after like some grace period, or you know if you miss an attack while you're in stealth, you actually get in stealth or something like that.
Yeah, that would be a good change.
That's a good change.
And in matchmaking, I would change that you can go from like when you queue, that you can still go in custom arenas and stuff, because that's pretty annoying because you can't train, you just wait for 10 minutes to get the queue or something.
Yeah, some sort of like revamp of the mists, like a jumping puzzle, or like making it seem happier, less like clouds maybe.
Something. Or 1v1 arena, something, it doesn't matter, but...
Like a lobby where you kind of people are queued to jump into a lobby and then you can 1v1 or something.
Yeah,
like just everyone can just kill each other or something crazy. I don't know. Or there's a Mystic Forge, something like that. But we all know the reasons why. Anyway, okay. Is there anything else you wanted to ask Heurix before we go? We've got about 5 minutes before we need to head off.
No, I think we're good.
I think we're good. I think we've had a really good conversation tonight. Not that we normally don't, but it's been good to get two guys, different regions, playing the same class, and two different perspectives. First, very, very quickly to ask Sam, because I didn't ask him about his matchup, your matchup versus Super Smash. How are you feeling about that matchup on Monday? And are you going to play?
I will not say that I will not.
You don't want to give it away.
Yeah,
I understand.
Because
that's fair enough.
It could be that I play. I don't know what we have. But
damn it! I was hoping you were gonna slip.
But Super Smash, I think, it's kind of the best matchup for us, because they're not training at all, and they're kind of giving up. But after that match, and the next week will be actually huge, because we face TCG and Orange for the patch. And
Orange logo is definitely one you guys can take.
Yeah, sure. Even TCG is one we can.
I think so.
Take. And we saw it in the 55 HP match that we do well against the other top 3 teams, I say. And I would definitely like to see that we win against TCG. And what I want to see is the next match, Vermilion against TCG. That would be kind of the next. I think it's next week. It will be kind of cool too.
Yeah, there's a lot of big matchups next week. Even Orange logo, still there is a sliver of hope for them to pull something out of the bag. Like say you guys versus Super Smash, I feel like you guys have probably got that in the bag. Even more guns than Purple versus Purple Noise. I think that could be quite close. For Vermilion versus TCG, that's one of the big ones next week. That's for sure, because that's going to decide pretty much whether or not TCG are potentially going to go as top 2 to the finals, of course, because some of those big matchups being settled quite early, and it could be quite a big one. Obviously, Vermilion rank 55 could lose the rest of the season, but TCG are their main competitors at the moment, other than potentially you guys, I actually think. So we're going to have to wait and see. Otherwise, that is the show, pretty much. Let's go back to our faces, because I think people should see our faces before we go. I want to say thank you to Sam. I want to say thank you to Supcutie, and thank you for Heurix as well for always joining me and always being here on time. But yeah, anything else you guys want to say before you go? Any shout-outs?
No, I don't really have. Anything?
Shout out to my boys Romus. Shout out to Ipno for being our sub and helping us out.
Follow them on Twitter, guys. If you're interested in following the team, for sure follow them on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter, actually. Don't follow them on Twitter. Just follow me on Twitter. That's it.
Follow Heurix for interesting posters themed around what you can see behind you or sloths. But yeah, you can follow Supcutie and his team at team_final form, Sam's team at Car Crashed CC, myself at JebDan, and make sure you go and follow Heurix at CT Heurix as well. We've been your hosts for this Pro League show this week, covering week 2. We'll see you on Monday. Make sure you tune in to the Pro League. Make sure you go and follow GW2 on Twitter so you know what's going on in terms of when On Point's on, when the Pro League is being streamed as well, and when you are going to be able to see these guys in fantastic PvP action. We'll see you very soon. Take it easy, guys, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks. See ya.
See ya.